If you're looking to buy a new Mac in 2026, whether that's a MacBook Air or a Mac Mini, then please, whatever you do not make the same mistake I did when I purchased my first Mac 6 years ago, because if I didn't make that one mistake, then I might not want to upgrade my Mac now. When I was first buying my Mac, I was on a budget and I was looking at the cheapest Mac, and at the time it was the M1 MacBook Air. I'd done a ton of research on all these Macs and I came away with two things. The first one was 8GB of RAM just simply wasn't enough for my needs, which is video and photo editing, and two, seeing that 256GB of storage also wasn't enough. But at least with the storage, I thought, well, I can get external SSDs and also hard drives as well, so I can save some money there and keep the base SSD. Whereas with the RAM, you can't upgrade that after the fact, so I had to spend the extra £200 to get to 16GB of RAM, because I think that's pretty more than enough for most people out there, and especially at the time, it was enough for me. Luckily now though, all of the base models actually come with 16GB of RAM, which is just absolutely amazing, but the iMac, the MacBook Air, and the Mac Mini still come with the base 256GB of storage. And if you haven't worked out already, that's actually the big mistake that I did make when I bought my MacBook Air, and that was going with the base storage option. So why don't I recommend going with the base storage when you can actually spend that extra money just by going up to 512GB to literally buy a 4TB SSD for about £300, when if you wanted to get to 2TB on the MacBook Air and MacBook Mini, for example, you're going to be spending an extra, I think it's £800 to get to 2TB of storage. But I don't actually recommend getting the maximum amount of storage because that is just too expensive. But what I wish personally I'd done when I brought my MacBook Air was just go up by one upgrade to 512GB. And that's mainly because you don't actually get 256GB of storage, because macOS takes up about 28GB, so you're already down there. And system data takes up, on my Mac at the minute, 6 years in, bearing in mind, 75GB of storage. That's over 100GB of storage just completely gone on absolutely nothing. So realistically, I only have about 150GB of storage, and I'll tell you what, that fills up very, very quickly. And when the storage finally does completely max out on your MacBook, it doesn't really matter what chip you have or how much RAM you have, to a point really, because this MacBook can get very, very slow, very fast, to a point where it actually becomes pretty unusable when you are editing, especially even when you are editing just log footage, not color corrected, no effects, just editing a normal log 4K footage. It can get very, very slow. I think one of the main reasons why it goes really slow is because when the RAM on your Mac gets full, the macOS actually tries to use the SSD as swap memory to be able to give more memory to the Mac, if you get what I mean. They kind of work together to give it more RAM so it can run apps a lot smoother. But obviously when your storage is fully maxed out, there's no swap memory to be used there. And that's when you can get some real bad performance issues. And that's when, like I said earlier, that's when it can slow down massively. Also, I don't think I'm going to get a sticker on my next one, but I actually really like this. I got it within the first week, and it's my Captain America and Iron Man sticker. I think it's really cool, but I do think I'm going to go for the more minimal, plain look on my next one. And how I've actually getting around my storage issue, I've actually stuck my 1TB SSD and this Anchor hub to the Mac, so I don't have any dangling cables. I don't have to remember to bring anything. It's always on there ready to go. I've got an SD card port in there. They're both velcroed on, and it's just probably the best way that I've found to do it. It's probably an easier and better solution, but for now I absolutely love this little combo that I have got. And that's why I really do think it's important to have a lot of RAM on your Mac as well, even though I do think 16GB of RAM is enough for most people out there. I mean, it's got me by what, 7 coming up to 7 years now, but I do think if the baseline Mac still had 8GB of RAM, I would definitely say upgrade that first over the SSD, because I do think that is more important, because like I said, at least with the SSD, you can get an external SSD and you can live with having 256GB of storage, even though it's drove me absolutely insane for the past 3 to 4 years, I'd say. Having more RAM is more important because you can't upgrade the RAM. And for whatever reason, you can't upgrade the base storage because the budget just isn't there. Well, there are a few workarounds that I have found out over the past few years to try and help manage it the best I can. So the first best solution that I have found over the past few years to try and keep on top of my storage and try and clean it out the best I can, and I'd even say if you've got 500 or a terabyte of storage, this can really help that as well. And this video isn't sponsored at all by these, but that is using Clean My Mac, because I tell you what, Clean My Mac has saved me so much over the past few years. With Clean My Mac, as soon as you open it, you can click run, and literally within seconds, you can clear out a good 5 to 6GB of just random crap really that's just living on your Mac. But the best feature on Clean My Mac is definitely the Space Lens option. This basically gives you a whole rundown of how much gigabytes is in every single file and folder. So as soon as you go on here, it will say library, you've got 80 gigabytes in here. In this folder, in library, you've got 60 gigabytes here. So you go in there and it tells you exactly how many gigabytes are in each folder. If you was to look in there on your own, it would have took you ages to try and find that file probably, and you can do this within literally seconds using the Space Lens feature. So I'd 100% recommend using Clean My Mac to try and get as much storage back on your Mac as possible. And also another way to just try and not maximize the storage out really quick when you do get it is just to not keep any files on there. Like I said, getting an external SSD or hard drive, especially as well if you're doing some screen recordings or screenshots, they can build up quickly over time. And also another one that I have learned is that I love downloading apps. So I have Lightroom, Photoshop, Lightroom Classic, DaVinci Resolve. If you've got an app that's taken up what 5, 6, 7 gigabytes of storage on your Mac that's just sitting there and you're not using it anymore, you haven't used it in like a couple months, then just delete it, get that storage off. Make sure you've got some free so when you are using the other apps, it's not driving you insane because of how slow it's getting. And then if you do need to get that app back again, literally just re-download it. It takes a couple minutes to download it again. When I do get my new Mac later this year, hopefully, I will be upgrading it to the 1 terabyte version, even though the new MacBook Pros have 500 gigabytes as a baseline. I just don't want to get into this position again. So I think going up to 1 terabyte just gives me that peace of mind and that longevity over, hopefully I want this to last a decade. The only thing that I do need to decide now though is, do I get a 14-inch MacBook or a 16-inch MacBook? Comment below which one you think. If you did enjoy, hit like and subscribe for more videos like this in the future. And if you do want to go check out that everyday carry video, then I'll link it here for you to go watch next.